Welcome back everyone. Today we'll be talking about the ADDIESDIVE AD2034. So this is a quartz, a mecha quartz chronograph watch, and this is a Panda design. It's got sapphire crystal. There's a lot to say about this watch and we will get into it in just a second. But if usually I do the review and then I make a conclusion, with this one I'm ready to say at the outset, I like it, but there are buts. That sounds interesting. Basically, I've got mixed feelings about this watch, and I want you to watch this review and figure out for yourself, is it more of a positive or a negative? In general, there's nothing not to like about the watch. $63. Mecha quartz movement, so 0.2 second precision, which is awesome. It's got that vintage look about it. It's got a dome sapphire crystal and the dome is really severe. It's got a really good bezel. Now there is a bit of backplate, but it's nothing major. It's still very sharp, it's very precise, it's quite loud as well, and it's very usable. Heavy resistance, and we'll get into it in just a little bit. But it's just that overall feeling that you get from a watch. Anyways, it seems like a good watch, and for $63, really, what can be wrong, right? Budget, good looking. Still there are quirks. So let's talk about those quirks in this video. Now the link to the listing is in the description below the video, so do check it out if you're interested in picking up a sharp price. And now without further ado, let's dive in. With regards to the dimensions, we get a diameter of 42 millimeters, a lug-to-lug length of just 48 millimeters due to the inverted end links. We get a height of 15.2 millimeters, but that is mostly due to the severely domed sapphire crystal. We get a lug width of 20 millimeters at the head, tapering down to 16 at the clasp, and a weight of 165 grams. This is a big piece. Now, it is quite symbolic, but if you do prefer the larger sizes or you've got a larger wrist size, this could be the perfect fit. Now, this is a 200-meter water-resistant watch. The screw and crown is significant and large. It's got 7 millimeters in diameter, flanked by the chronograph pushers, and these pushers are quite retro in design. Looking at the profile, we can see the severe arching of the flank. The lug tips slant down very aggressively indeed. What you will also notice is that the flank is actually polished to a high gloss, and potentially this is the thing that rubs me the wrong way. Potentially with this watch having this severely large size, that it would have been more contained, less blingy if it was brushed. Now that could be the only thing that I maybe would improve on it, but hey, that's just my opinion. If we talk about the actual polishing, it's pretty good, it's even, consistent, it's good reflections on here, no issues with that. Also, the transitions to the lug hoods are very nicely smoothed out. There's no sharp corners. When we look at the lug tips, they are actually brushed, radially brushed around the coin-like bezel. And the bezel here is quite tall, yet it's narrow on top. It's a ceramic bezel insert. It's got the markings for every 5 minutes from 0 to 60, so that makes sense. And it goes in line with this retro-ish look where we got a more narrow bezel. The great thing about this bezel is that it is actually loomed, and when we do the lume test you will see why that is so great. The blue luminosity here is bright, it's long lasting, and the same goes for the bezel as well as the dial elements. If we talk about the bracelet, well, it integrates with the head really nicely. Now this is a 5-link bracelet and it features 2 threads of polished links and 3 threads of brushed links. Considering the tapering of 20 millimeters at the head to 16 at the clasp, it is an elegant looking setup, even though you would probably think that it's a 22 millimeter strap width at the head, because it does feel quite significant, thick, bulky, but it's not. It's quite elegant. And I like the polished link threading. I think it really bumps up the prestige look of this watch, but it still doesn't warrant for the flank to be fully polished in my eyes, simply because of the larger case size. We have too much bling. But again, that's just my humble opinion. The bracelet gets very good tolerances for a 5-link setup. We got a milled clasp, it's got 5 micro adjustments, the usual double pusher clasp with a milled wing, so really nice. If we flip the watch over, we can see a screw-down case back, which actually states 200 meters of water resistance. And that does make sense considering we do get the sapphire crystal, we get the screw-in crown, as well as a screw-down case back. And of course, the crown is signed. So the watch in general, if we talk about the build quality, the design, everything except for those polished flanks just suits me just fine, and I would wear this watch if only it was slightly smaller. The 48mm lug length is really good. That's not big at all. It's just that I think on my 6.5-inch wrist, this watch does look a bit larger, just because, well, it is a large watch. Now, if we actually take a look at the center stage, if we look at the sapphire crystal and down below at the dial, the sapphire crystal gets a blue anti-reflective film on top, and we can see it when we look at an angle. I like this retro-inspired domed sapphire crystal, and we can see that the dome is really severe, and we get these vintage distortions on the edge when we look from the side. I think that sort of works, but usually I like these distortions on a much smaller dial or much more contained dial. Here they become a bit too prominent, so I would say it potentially would have been better if this watch was using a double dome. But either way, it looks okay. Now, because of the anti-reflective treatment, there is not much glare, there's not much reflection, as well as the contrast in general is very good with the white indices, numerals on this very black piano black dial. We've got a white minute track, we've got the tachymeter scale, we've got large numerals from 1 to 12 circling the dial. We only have 2 sub-dials here, so on the left at 9 o'clock we've got the 60-minute counter, while on the right we've got the 24-hour counter. So it's a Panda look, and yeah, it's a balanced look. Now, there is no date window. Is that an omission? Well, potentially, because this dial is so big, I'm sure if they did put in a date, that would have been fine. And it potentially would enrich this watch a bit more. But if we're going for the classic layout, it's fine. Anyways, let's do a quick lume test. But if there's something I didn't like in the polishing of the flank, which is not a major, not a biggie, this is definitely a biggie. This lume is absolutely fantastic, considering this is a watch under $100 and still it pushes out so much brightness and longevity that you would expect from the much more expensive watches. So what can I say? Well, this is a very budget piece. $60 is not exactly a lot of money. Yet, are there better options around? Well, we've been looking at tens and tens of automatic watches from $40 to $60. So there are options out there. But if you want chronograph precision, 0.2 seconds accuracy, this is quite a good watch to go for. But then again, we've seen these mecha quartz movements in quite a few watches as well. And I would say that some of them are more balanced, the sizing a bit more nimble. This is definitely a big piece. 42mm in diameter is not a small watch. And considering we have this trend, an industry trend of decreasing diameters. But then again, if you do have a bigger wrist or you like the bigger watch feel, then potentially this one is one to go for. Anyways, the affiliate link to this watch is in the description below the video, so do check it out if you're after a sharp price. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.